What does it actually take to install solar on an RV? Let's take a look. Hi, I'm Roger. I'm a Red Seal technician here at Fraserway RV, and I'm going to walk you through installing a solar panel or upgrading a solar panel. Solar power is becoming a much bigger factor in our RV industry, mainly because the RV industry has gone away from gas fridges to electric fridges. So we need to be able to resupply power into our batteries to keep the fridges to run. So many units now either come pre-wired for solar, or they're already coming with 1 or 2 panels on the roof. We generally recommend, if you have a electric fridge, that you have up to 400 watts of power would be recommended for running the fridge continuously if you're dry camping. If you don't do much dry camping, if you're only traveling between site to site, you need a little bit of power in between to bridge you from plug-in site to plug-in site, then maybe a 200 watt panel is all you really need. And you don't necessarily need to go further from there. If you're plugging in all the time, you don't really need the solar. But if you like to dry camp like I do, I like those sites where I have the room and I don't have to worry about things. So I like my solar power on my unit for sure. We are going to install a solar panel on this vehicle. This is going to be an upgrade. This vehicle already has 1 solar panel, so we're going to add a second one. But we'll show you, if you don't have one, how that works. And if you already have one, this is going to be how you upgrade to a second or more panels. Okay, so one of the things that you're going to look for on top of your roof is a cable entry plate. There's going to be some kind of port on the top of your roof if you have a unit that's pre-wired for solar. So this is a cable entry plate. There's usually 2 wires with connectors like these that come out. Those get wired into there, and you'll see those connectors. And the solar panel basically plugs into these connectors through that cable entry plate. And that's essentially how it hooks up. It's very simple. If you do not have this plate, you may still be pre-wired. There may be a marker on the roof, but generally nowadays on the newer units, there's going to be some kind of plate like this that shows you where the wiring is. And so if you have this, you're already good to go. The other thing you want to check in to see is if you have a regulator. You may have a cable entry plate, but you may not have a regulator already installed. So on this unit, it does have a regulator. This one, if we look at it, it's only a 10 amp regulator. So that is only good for 1 up to 200 watt solar panel. So in this case, because we're adding more, we need to also upgrade the regulator. This would be an example of a 30 amp regulator. So if we have a 30 amp regulator already pre-wired into our system, we can add up to 3 panels with this. If we've already got 1 panel, then we can upgrade and add 2 more, up to 2 more if we want, with a 30 amp regulator. So check the size of the regulator if you're upgrading, or if you're just adding your first panels, double check that size before you start buying more panels. If you don't have a big enough regulator, the regulator could overload. So there'll be more power than the regulator can handle. The regulator probably won't damage it, but it won't be able to deal with all that power, and it won't be able to put it out. So it may or may not damage it. I've never actually overloaded one to find out what happens, but I wouldn't recommend it for sure. So to put your panel on, the panel is going to come with a set of brackets, that looks something like this. And you're going to need to install those onto the frame. So we've got 2 installed on this side. We're going to put 2 more on the other side, so we have 4 all the way across. And that should be sufficient to hold our panel down. And then on the other side, it's got 2 holes for the screws, for the mounting screws. So when we mount it, we're going to put some sealant underneath it, run the screws down, and that's going to hold our solar panel to our roof. This is our cable entry plate. This is the one that was pre-wired on this unit for the existing panel. So to add a second panel to this, we're going to unplug the existing panel, and we're going to put in these Y connectors. Now that we've got our connectors disconnected, we can add our Y connectors on. So the Y connectors are going to go right onto the cable entry plate ports, like so. And there's a male and female end, so we're not going to get those mixed up. So we'll put those on just like that, so that we have the Ys coming out. And now we have 2 ports each to plug in one panel and a second panel. If we wanted a third panel, we could get another set of Y connectors, connect them to the ends, and then we'd end up with 1, 2, 3 for each. So now our existing panel is reconnected, and now we're ready to connect our second panel. Now in this installation, the panels are fairly close together. We're able to reach the cable entry plate with the existing cables that come right off the solar panel. If you find that you don't have room and you have to go further away to put your second panel, there is extension cables that you can get in various different lengths. So just figure out how much you need, order a cable set of extensions that's appropriate for the distance that you've got to go to mount your panel. Okay, so we're going to secure the panel down. So securing the panel down to the roof, using these Z brackets that we used before, we're going to put sealant underneath, and we're going to use the screws that came with the kit. We're going to screw it down into the roof. The roofs of almost every RV have a fairly solid deck built into them, so there's lots of meat to screw into. If you have something that has a thin metal roof or a fiberglass roof, you may need to use some sort of like an expanding rivet to install them. But most of the RVs are all rubber roofs with a solid deck underneath. Double check, some lightweight trailers may have a very thin luan underneath, and that may not hold, so that may you need to do something different with that. But just feel how thick it is. Usually it's about 3/8 worth of plywood, and that's good enough to mount it. So we're going to start by putting some sealant underneath. And we're not going to be shy, we're going to put on lots, so make sure that it squeezes out all the way around. We'll make sure that the back side squeezes out the back side as well. So there's lots there. We're going to run a screw in. Don't over tighten it. And then we're going to grab our sealant and we're going to cover over the whole top of the bracket. Try and make as neat a job as possible. So this is self-leveling sealant appropriate for rubber roofs. That's the sealant we're going to use in this case. And self-leveling means it's very runny, so we don't have to tool it or work it. If we apply it and we leave it, it's going to puddle and it's going to make a nice smooth finish when it's done. And then once you've got your first one down, just repeat the process for the other 3 brackets and you are basically done. You may need to do some cable management to keep the cables from flopping in the breeze. Generally, if I put these on, if I have a lot of cable, I can try and tie them to the underside of the solar panel. There is an extra hole for the brackets, so you may be able to find an extra hole or tie them around the bracket. I'd avoid putting a clamp that I have to screw down, just one less screw. If I had to do that, I may go to an area where there's already sealant, such as a plumbing stack or something like that. I may screw down a bracket there to manage my cables on the roof. Try not to make as many holes as possible. Okay, so this is the back of our regulator. So in this case, we're going to upgrade this regulator from the 10 amp to a 30 amp in order to have the capacity to run the extra panel. On the back of your regulator, you're going to see it has a solar panel symbol with a positive and negative, and then a battery symbol with the positive and negative. So these are my battery wires. These are my solar panel wires. So I can disconnect these and I can simply just transfer them over to this one. So this one has, in the center, it has solar panel positive and negative. And then this one actually can support 2 different banks of batteries. We're only going to use one in this case. There's the primary battery. So we're going to hook up our battery wires to the primary battery. The second battery would be a second bank or your starter battery if you wanted to. This regulator prioritizes the primary battery. So if we hook that up to our house, that would charge our primary battery first. And if it has power left over, if those get fully charged, then it will go on to charge some to the secondary battery as well. But generally, we don't have wiring here for those secondary batteries, so not very easy. You'd have to run those to whatever bank or to the starter battery if you wanted that. Not every regulator is going to have that dual bank feature. That's a feature of this particular Go Power regulator. Many of them will just have, the 30 amp regulators will just have 4 connections, 1 panel, 1 battery connection. So thank you for watching our video. If you have any other questions on solar panels and installing solar panels, please feel free to contact your local Fraserway RV in service or in parts, and we can help you out with advice.